All right, have we gotten past the nonsense?
Well, no, we haven't even started talking yet.
That's true.
How do you do?
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
We're about to unfold the story of
The Bride of Frankenstein.
She's alive! Alive!
A monster created from cadavers out of rifled graves. A tale that sent my blood into icy creeps.
Would you like to hear what happened after that?
Well, we've warned you.
Yeah, you've been warned. Shoot. You've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the Universal Frankenstein series minute by minute. I'm Bill Evenson.
And I'm Ernest Thesiger, and you join us for minute 41 of Universal's 1935 film Bride of Frankenstein.
I remember it.
You do?
Yeah, it has Ernest Thesiger in it.
It does.
So this is a great honor.
Yes.
Sir.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I could be here to participate.
I appreciate you saying that. Clearly you're not. It's clearly not true. You've got better things to do.
Far better.
And to be honest. Okay, so...
Well, the minute starts as Opie is continuing to pray, as in the previous minute.
Yeah, I think and the monster is laying down in the bed.
Opie sort of gently guided him to lay down in the previous minute and starts to pray, clasping one of his hands.
Yeah.
His good hand, I assume, the right hand.
I noticed you're calling him Opie.
Well.
But what do you think about that note that Rick said about calling him Heggy? He's always said Hedgie.
Yeah.
I just think it looks like Heggy.
Heggy, the way it's spelled.
And then I said the way it's spelled.
Yeah.
But then if you change the H to an R, that's obviously
Reggie.
So I don't know.
There's a pizza
pizza
brand that's Heggy's, and I've heard it said that way.
I'm sold. Rick is wrong.
Yep.
Done.
Done.
Opie. I think the monster looks kind of funny at first because the way he's like baffled.
I don't think
nothing like this has ever happened.
He has no frame of reference to react to this.
Yeah, we've seen him go through a lot of different experiences with a lot of different people that have helped him to get to this point. You know, he obviously rescues the shepherdess.
Yep.
He murders Maria. But I mean, all these things.
All these interactions, none of them have really had a positive outcome.
Yes.
Until right now.
And because as we know, as we'll see over the coming weeks, this is going to have a really positive outcome.
These are going to be, like I said, these are BFFs.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot over the coming weeks. But so he's laying there, and to me he looks stunned.
Yeah,
he can't believe what's happening. And so it's almost funny how stunned he looks. Like, whoa, dude, and him doing a prayer over him.
Yeah, he's initially confused, but I think he becomes swept up in the emotion of it.
Absolutely, as evidenced.
As evidenced at the end. But I think he's comprehending what he's saying, and it finally somebody's nice to him. And
I think it's fair to think that he is mostly, at least, comprehending what the guy is saying. It's an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about before. Listeners will know that we record these in blocks, and this is the first of a block that we're recording. And this block, it's going to come up again soon, that the monster does understand what people are saying. It's obviously going to be a great topic starting now.
Starting now for the rest of the film, yeah.
For the rest of and probably for the rest of the time that we do this podcast, although in the later days it won't come up so much.
Understand much of anything.
Yes, master. That's my impression of Glenn
Strange. That's very good. I thought for a moment.
Oh no!
Face to face with
right there.
There he is. Yeah, we should mention the
studio's been redecorated.
Yes, been festooned with some stills and some posters and
artwork. The festooning was.
And special thanks to listener Mike Herman who sent in these stills. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Well, walk us through this here. With no visuals.
So we have a picture of Dwight Fry and some test makeup for Carl that thank God they didn't use because he looks goony as hell.
I've heard you say this, but I don't even think it's all far off, really.
Well, his
eyebrows
looks like
somebody punched him in the mouth.
Well, yeah, his eyebrows are askew and his lips are painted kind of weird. It doesn't look real. It looks very...
But Carl, I think we'll see later.
Carl's
looks a little exaggerated.
He's kind of odd looking, but but not that much.
Not that much.
But let's be honest, so was Fry. So
I don't know. Have you seen the movie Dracula?
Yeah, he's a little odd looking in that.
In the beginning, he doesn't look as odd.
Next to that, we have James Whale and Boris Karloff enjoying the smoke at Malibu Lake, filming the Maria scene. Next to that, there's a still of Karloff having a cup of tea and a smoke as Jack Pierce does some preparatory work in the lower right. We have Valerie Hobson leaning over Colin Clive, and that's the still that I said looks like Bowles was in, but nobody else seemed to agree with me, so fuck you all.
Yep, me.
We got Karloff peering through the bushes looking at Maria. It's a great still. We have a close-up of Karloff from Bride of Frankenstein. Next, we have a still that's in my living room of Colin Clive and Boris sharing a cup of tea and a smoke on the set of Bride of Frankenstein.
I kind of arranged this poorly.
Yeah.
You get all the good ones on your side.
Then we have the great artwork that Doc Ivan did, which features Bill as the monster and myself as Pretorius. I don't know if there's any commentary in that or
Neither one is complimentary.
not
I would say.
particularly.
So yeah, I
So
think
don't know.
it's perfect.
Yeah. So you're a murderous brute, and I'm a Machiavellian homosexual, I guess.
I can't imagine that anyone who listens to this podcast
Would
would
think-
come away with anything
think
other than that
otherwise.
over the last 100 and some weeks.
Below that is a publicity still from Son of Frankenstein that shows it's not Edgar Norton who plays the butler lying on the floor, but Karloff sitting on the stairs, apparently eating a pizza or something.
Yeah, no, he's not. But I think
it
it's a
looks
book
like
or
he's-
something. But as soon as you said that, now that's all I can see.
He's holding something that
Looks
it's
like a pizza box.
Yeah, it looks like a pizza box. I'm
In
sure
his
it's
lap.
not. Then we have a wonderful close-up of Glenn Strange from one of the House films. And next to that, we do have Edgar Norton about to jab Karloff with a scalpel from Son of Frankenstein. Next to that, we probably have the most famous still from Bride of Frankenstein, where the monster and the monster's mate are seated side by side. She has her arm extended and he's holding it.
As we've spoken about before, the beginning of the great romance.
Oh yeah, it was a romance for the ages. And then finally, we have a still of Karloff, the burgermeister, and a bunch of villagers cowering from him. Far right is Carl, and you can see he's got some sort of a goofy brace or something on his left foot.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So there we are. Oh, and in the middle there's a poster that some hack slapped together.
We got it framed.
Yeah, it looks great.
Well, I'm glad you think so. I do wish it wasn't so much glare. You can get the
Yeah.
you
Well,
can
that's
pay through the nose for something with less glare.
Yeah, I know.
But the lighting in the Belong Dead Studios is treacherous.
Subpar at best.
Treacherous. That's not
Anyway, so there
All
we
right.
are.
So there we are. A light to mine eyes, I find interesting.
Yeah. There's
Because
lots
he's
of-
blind.
Well, I think he means that he's going to assist me in seeing,
Yeah.
figuratively.
My eyes.
He'll act as my eyes.
My dark eyes that are not they're of no use to me in my current condition. This friend that you've brought me will be, if nothing else, just poetically like a light to mine eyes,
Yeah,
but also
yeah.
it's some help me to see.
To see,
figuratively,
yeah.
There you go.
Okay, well, we're done here. Yeah, Ave Maria swells big time in the background.
Yes, there's
Franz
a
Voxman working overtime on that one.
It's interesting to me because the organ swells, and anyone that knows me knows that I like a swelling organ.
Oh, hey.
I actually wrote that joke. It's written down here. And the cross, we fade out.
I'll put in a rim shot.
If you put in a rim shot, let's leave that.
I'm not going to.
All right, so everybody,
I thought
people
twice-
that know me know that I love
a good rim.
Oh, rim shot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where the hell were we? So I noticed on the wall next to that cross, so the organ swells as organs
As
do.
organs are want to do.
We're never getting through this minute.
Yeah, we're at 45 minutes already.
Oh God, no. The cross is on the wall, and I noticed there was something else on the wall, and I thought it looked like an animal pelt, and it made me think, what is this guy like? I can't picture that he would have a display. And then I watched again. No, it's just like a rug or
It's a blanket or something, because I think the script refers to him putting blankets and furs on top of the monster.
That would have
as he's-
happened right here.
Yeah.
And I guess that doesn't happen, or does he pull something? Well, that was last
You
week.
don't really see that he pulls anything over, because as he finishes praying, he drops his head down and rests his head on his hands and the monster's
that's right.
hand.
That's right. Well, his hands could be on top of a blanket, is all I was thinking.
It could
But
be.
I
I don't recall him ever putting a
don't
blanket
either.
on. It's in the script, but I think it would have slowed the pace of this down
That's
a little
true.
bit.
There's a lot of shit in the script.
Yeah.
So
and
then the cross.
well,
Well, let me say this
well,
too about the swelling organ.
Before, you,
'cause I
before
don't
we
wanna-
leave the swelling organ, before we drop I don't want to let go of the swelling
That's
organ.
right. We don't want to let go of the swelling organ just yet.
We've lost about 30 or 40 listeners. at this point.
But Doc Ivan's already made a graphic
Oh,
for it.
I fucking hope so.
So the organ. I've said already in recent weeks that the organ is something that I'm not a fan of.
It's a little too much
And
for me.
actually, in this minute, I kind of like the fact that it goes completely over the top. It overpowers the soundtrack and drills it. The swelling organ drills it home.
Drills home.
And it's accompanied by an odd fade.
Well, yeah, I mean, but before that, though, we see Monsters is so moved by this prayer and the kindness, the man resting his head on his chest, that he's moved to tears. The monster actually cries tears of joy at this point, and Karloff sells it great.
Jackie noticed the tear. She was impressed by the tear.
Was she?
And then she immediately undercut it and was like, "What? They just squirt something in his?" I don't. Probably.
But I mean,
it looks great. It's perfect.
It works. And as the Opie has his head down, then the monster kind of pats him on the shoulder, sort of awkwardly as well.
Yeah, right.
Which is
good. Awkward is good.
He would, because he's never had the opportunity to respond to kindness before.
So that's probably right.
So this is,
the Maria was kind, but
well, she was okay.
Yeah, I guess she was.
Yeah, she was kind,
but she wasn't. Maybe even kind isn't the right word. She was fine. She didn't care.
She didn't show.
She was a little kid.
Yeah, she didn't show.
She was a 9-year-old that acted like a 4-year-old that didn't notice that she was talking to a man put together from corpses.
Yeah.
And will you please play with me? That's not quite kindness.
Well,
it's just not animosity.
Right, okay.
Which is a big deal for him, too.
She didn't shoot at him or jab fire in his face. So, from using that as a yardstick,
whip him? Oh, no, he doesn't get whipped by... He never gets whipped.
Yeah, he does.
Fritz does whip him, that's right. And stick fire in his face.
Because the monster uses the whip to hang Fritz.
Yes, there you go. That's right. But and also sticks fire in his face. Yeah. I remember Frankenstein.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You seen that?
Yeah. It's got Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff in it.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
All right.
We didn't run that into the ground all those years ago. So let's just do it one more time.
That's right. We didn't mention his name for 30 weeks.
Yeah. Now
the fade happens.
Now the fade happens. There's a crucifix hanging in the wall, which you mentioned. It's at a slight angle. It's not hanging perfectly perpendicular.
That's an interesting point. What do you think that's supposed to be?
The guy's blind, for one thing.
It's not upside down.
Yeah,
so
give him a break there. He got it on the wall at all, I think.
Yeah, There's
a place we drive by over in...
Do you think he put it on the wall? I mean, he didn't build that place.
No, he didn't. And
like in the novelization we talked about.
I'm sure, Carl Dreadstone's novelization, that gives him backstory. I think you went into it in some detail a few weeks back.
He lived there with his father.
Yeah.
But then he probably does take that crucifix down. He's a very religious
devout
fellow.
man.
Very devout.
Yes. And again, that's not mocked, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sincere. Although,
this is as close as we come. It's not mockery. I shouldn't even suggest it's mockery, but it's way
over the top. Yeah, the crucifix at an angle. I don't know if there's any significance to that other than the guy's blind. But yeah, as the scene starts to fade out, the cross or the crucifix starts to glow ever so slightly. And then the screen goes black except for the crucifix, which then goes black a few seconds later.
I think it's interesting how you described that. You said it starts to glow ever so slightly. I agree with you. That is what happens. But I never took it that way. I always took it to be an optical effect problem, like a mistake, essentially, because things will do that.
Yeah.
In clumsy 30s fades.
It was all
because of the way they did the fades.
Optical printer and mats and all that. It was very, very...
they did fades the way I would do them.
Yeah.
Just not knowing how to do them. Basically.
Yeah.
This ain't Citizen Kane where they would do the fades in shot.
Right.
Yeah. Or, well, I guess, I don't know how they did that.
No, it would have been optically.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Of course. Because otherwise the cross would be a problem.
Yeah, it's not like there was a light on the cross as it was fading out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So that's it's brief. It happens for about a second, and then that fades out too.
The glow on the cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's an artifact.
You could miss it. I guess what you're saying.
I'm sure it's an artifact of the process and not deliberate. Mm-hmm. But I think it adds a little something to it that it starts to glow before the scene fades out.
Yeah.
Ever so briefly.
Okay.
I don't know. I always liked that.
I mean, either way, the overall effect is that everything fades out and the cross is still there. So it's not as if it's a mistake that affects anything.
Oh, no.
The point is, it's over the top to have this cross.
This frequently gets criticized, and I don't agree. I've always kind of liked it.
Okay.
It's just another little whale touch.
I think it's kind of dumb. I wouldn't go so so far as to criticize it. It's just a little. It's a part. It's in a piece with everything we've just been talking about. He's devout. What he's talking about. The monster crying. It all comes together. The organ.
Mm-hmm. The organ swelling.
Can't wait for that organ. Actually, this is it. This is the
organ.
This is the last appearance of the organ.
The organ is spent. And
that's right. That's right. So it's flaccid, and now we can wait.
Move on.
What's going on? Yeah. So there we go. Then it fades out. Everything fades out.
Fades to black, and it holds on the black for a few seconds, and the cross fades up.
And I notice you kind of hear the sound comes in a little bit before the picture, which isn't unusual, but it gives that sort of impression of, to me, of breakfast. I've always thought this is breakfast.
Breakfast, yeah.
The next day. However, go ahead.
The script indicates that there is. Oh, before we do that, I have one note on Ave Maria. As I was just going through my notes yesterday, finishing up and making sure I had everything, had the TV on, a movie called Scarlet Street with Edward G. Robinson, directed by and produced by Fritz Lang from 1945, begins with an organ grinder playing Ave Maria.
An organ grinder, huh? Yeah. They have a monkey?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I haven't seen it. Of course, I haven't seen fucking anything.
Yeah.
They just make shelves.
And put things on them. And
they made these shelves, you can tell. They're pretty clumsy.
They probably did better than I would have. So,
anyways.
I just thought it was interesting that as I was writing down things about
Ave Maria, there it was.
That's
cool. That is really...
So yes, the cross fades.
And then did you look up and there was a cross on the wall, slightly crooked?
Yeah, and it
started to glow. And then you passed out because you fade out. You gotta fade out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like it's the next morning. However, the script would argue that because it says it's several months later.
It specifically says a few months later, which is great because the script does this a lot. We've talked about where there'll be notes for things that
the audience will never.
The audience could never know.
Yeah.
But it's meant presumably to inform the scene, inform the direction,
the performers
and the
performance. Yeah.
Because if you don't have anybody say it, how the hell? Unless there's a caption on screen saying a few months later. I do want to note, at the same time, a lot happens all at once, sort of, in this minute. Like you said when we were watching it, it would kind of be nice if it just faded out.
That was the end of the minute. Yeah.
We used to have that happen all the time, but then Whale gave up on us.
Thanks a lot.
So there's going to be a marked tonal change, in my opinion. That swelling organ, that's all done now.
Which is why I think there's a gap of blackness in there, just to kind of. It's not the end of an act necessarily.
Well, maybe it is.
No,
I guess it wouldn't.
I don't
work
think
like
so.
That.
No, I think the end of Act 2 comes a little bit later.
Okay.
And I'll point that out when we get there.
Yeah. But also, I think that he's laying down in bed, and he said it's time for sleep. It just that they fade out and they go to bed, and then it
fades
just
up,
seems
and it's breakfast the next day.
Seems like breakfast. You open your eyes and somebody's already got the breakfast table.
You can hear,
set.
I think, birds chirping in the background.
Is that on there too?
There's some background noise. To some ambient sound to it. So,
and that's where, as I say, there'll be a tonal change that'll go on for the next few weeks. So I'll refer to it. Another thing the script doesn't say is, and now for our lesson. Remember, this is bread. That's all not in the script.
Yeah.
So all those things sort of go together, in my opinion. A few months later, and then now it's time for our lesson. And I'll be referring to this over the coming weeks too, because some of it makes more sense the way it's done here. In my opinion, it makes sense for it to be the next morning. You should probably. I could also make an argument that it should be the next afternoon. I could also make an argument that it's a few days later. It's probably a few days later.
You think a few months is too long?
I think so, and I can tell you, yeah.
Okay, well, I can't argue with that. So
why isn't it a few months later? I guess it could be a few.
Well, he says, and now for our lesson, it indicates that this is been going on for a while. It's certainly not the next day.
It could be the next day.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because he says, and now for our lesson, like, okay, this is the time of day where we've done this. Now it's time for.
All right. Next week, I'll make an argument for why it's not a few months later. I just remembered.
Okay. It indicates to me that it's
might be the following week. But anyway.
Fine. At least some time has passed from the previous night to.
But
now.
In my opinion, not too long. It doesn't work if it's too long because.
Yeah.
You'll see.
A few months might be a little long yet. But a few days,
I think it undercuts some
week.
things he's going to say later. So this is good because we've already gone long. But this scene and what we're talking about now, all the things we're talking about are leading into the coming weeks.
Yeah.
All that happens in this, we're almost at the end of the minute.
Yeah,
now.
pretty much.
He says, the difference between the script is, and now for our lesson, remember this is bread. That's not in the script. But he does. So what happens in the script is he just says bread, and the monster says bread. Yeah. And this is it. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The monster speaks.
First word he ever says.
Was that on some of the
Yes.
artwork? The monster speaks.
It's in. If you find where the press kit is in there.
The press kit. It's got to be before the script.
Yeah, it's in there. So some of the posters, I believe, because there was a thing about Garbo speaks was a big deal, and
yeah, right.
So it was sort of also billing him as Karloff was a throwback to Garbo as well.
It's funny because what I am finding is these ones that are hilarious. The monster demands a mate. That works.
Yeah.
Then the monster wants a wife, or death to the scientist who created him. It's like they had some leeway when they were making, like, whoever made this art didn't have to conform.
Didn't have to watch the film.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
No, they didn't have to conform to any kind of
there wasn't like a
standard.
Yeah,
they had some leeway.
Yeah, I know somewhere it's a monster.
Who will be the Bride of Frankenstein? Who will dare?
Well,
anyway,
we've
both seen it. There is.
Metropolis
I can't find any in here, but there is obviously the monster speaks, and that's right. I forgot about the Garbo speaks thing. That's kind of funny. That's cute. I mean, that does make it a joke. I think.
It does, yeah. It's a cute little throwback, and again, like I said, the Karloff, because Garbo was billed frequently as just Garbo. In fact, I don't even know her first name.
Yeah, that's right. Because no one remembers.
No one remembers that.
It's just like Karloff.
This guy. Yeah,
I think it was Bill.
Billy Karloff. Actually, it was, but
yeah. Don't think I didn't notice.
All right.
The first word the monster ever speaks is bread. And this is one good thing about the way the minute ends.
Yeah.
That's it. For the second word, you got to come back next week.
Yeah, that's right. What will he say next?
This is Boris Karloff's least favorite minute.
I have more on that next week because he speaks more next week.
Okay, we can cover.
Because he said he only says the one word this time, so I didn't put it here.
That's what I kind of think too. This is a little jumping off point to next week. It's all about next week.
Yes. Monster is kind of delighted that he does remember that it's bread.
Okay, yeah.
He's really
bread.
And he's like, I know what that is. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then the eating of the bread is really.
The script indicates the monster is struggling to speak and doesn't remember. Very well, but it looks like Karloff's having a ball.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's bread.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a choice. It's a choice that he makes all the right choices.
Yeah.
I think, as we'll see over the coming weeks.
Yeah. He wasn't as fond of his performance in this as he was in Frankenstein, which we'll talk about next week. I think they're both of a piece. I think they're both equally excellent.
I think we're just both trying not to talk about stuff we're going to talk about next week.
It
seems like we both front-loaded or back-loaded or whatever next week.
Yeah, all right.
So we'll have more to say about...
We'll just stop right now.
Next week, we're going to talk about Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Okay.
Or in this case, The Bride
of Frankenstein. One of the two. We'll decide.
From week to week.
We'll decide in the break which one we want to talk about.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace.
Do we have Pinterest?
Friendster. Yeah, we have probably Pinterest, Patreon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are doing the Patreon.
Did we do the names?
We did the names a couple weeks ago. We have a few more to add to that. So
follow us all those places.
You'll be glad you did.
No, well, yes, you'll be glad.
Way to sell it.
You won't be disappointed.
Well, I'm not saying that either.
Oh shit.
They haven't said much about the meaning of life so far, have they?